Just like that!
If you have fight, give me fight.
Khamzat Chimaev was sold to the world as a problem no one could solve. From the moment he entered the UFC, his fights weren't competitions, they were statements. He walked through opponents like they didn't belong in the same sport. 3 wins in just over 2 months, almost no damage taken. Dana White said he'd never seen anything like it.
The guy's special. I've been in this game my whole life. I've never seen anything like him. He's special, he's different, he wants to fight again.
But dominance always raises questions. And in Chimaev's case, the most important ones have nothing to do with his skills in the cage, because behind the undefeated record is a much more complicated reality. Chimaev's story isn't just about MMA. It's about politics, power, and influence. It's about a fighter who's become entangled with one of the most dangerous regimes in the world. And it's about how a man can win in public,
Brother, don't miss my fights. Don't look like porn.
while being owned in private. Let's start with the facts. Ramzan Kadyrov is the leader of Chechnya. He operates the region as a dictatorship where opposition is crushed and power is absolute. The US government has officially sanctioned him for human rights abuses, including torture, forced disappearances, and extrajudicial killings. He is not a controversial figure. He is a criminal one, and he is also Khamzat Chimaev's closest political ally. Doesn't hide the relationship. He's referred to Chimaev as like a son. They've appeared together in dozens of photos, trained side by side, and shared public dinners. Kadyrov's state-run media promotes Chimaev as a Chechen hero, but this is not about national pride, it's strategy. Kadyrov has spent years using MMA and fighters like Chimaev to launder his public image. He runs his own fight promotion. He recruits fighters into Chechen government roles. He floods Instagram with highlight reels, selfies, and gym footage to distract from the brutality of his rule. Chimaev is the most high-profile weapon in that campaign. This isn't speculation. It's documented and it's deliberate. When Chimaev visits Chechnya, it's not a vacation, it's a signal to the world and to his supporters back home. When he wins in the UFC, Kadyrov's media celebrates it like a military victory. It's propaganda wrapped in sport. And here's where it becomes even more complicated. According to U.S. law, American citizens and companies are prohibited from conducting business with individuals or entities under OFAC sanctions, like Kadyrov. This applies to financial transactions, services, and even promotional activity. Yet Chimaev continues to appear in Kadyrov's state-run program. He receives gifts. He trains in facilities owned by the regime, and the UFC remains silent. It's not hard to understand why. Chimaev is a draw. He sells fights, he builds hype, but his political connections raise legitimate legal and ethical questions that no one in the organization seems willing to address, and that silence sends a message. Now let's talk about the crypto incident. In 2023, Chimaev promoted a cryptocurrency called Smash. He pushed it on social media to his millions of followers, presenting it as his own branded token. The project skyrocketed in value, briefly, before collapsing. Shortly after, the token's developers disappeared, the wallets were drained, the website vanished, and Chimaev deleted all related posts without explanation. It was, by every definition, a pump-and-dump scam. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a financial scheme that leveraged his fame and credibility to attract investment, only for the money to disappear and accountability to evaporate. For most public figures, especially athletes tied to a global brand like the UFC, this would have triggered real consequences, investigations, sponsorship losses, suspensions. But again, nothing happened. And the reason is becoming increasingly clear. Chimaev's position in the fight world isn't just about his abilities, it's about what he represents. He's more than a contender, he's a geopolitical asset. That makes him valuable, but it also makes him untouchable. The UFC continues to promote him. Media outlets hesitate to ask hard questions, and fans are left with a version of the truth that's been carefully managed. What's most troubling is the pattern. When you zoom out, you see a career shaped not just by performance, but by strategic silence. A fighter who's protected at every turn, not just from opponents, but from consequences. His association with Kadyrov is not incidental. It is central. His crypto scandal wasn't a misstep. It was a cash grab, executed under the protection of influence. And his continued rise within the sport speaks volumes about how power works in modern MMA. This isn't a story about whether Chimaev is a good fighter. He is. This isn't a debate about his place in the rankings. This is about transparency and accountability, and the line between sport and statecraft. Because once you look past the octagon, what you see is a man who's no longer just competing. He's being used, marketed, deployed. His brand doesn't belong to him. It belongs to people who don't care about the sport, people who care about control. This is what happens when a fighter becomes a figurehead, when his name is wrapped in a flag, backed by an autocrat, and protected by an organization too afraid or too greedy to step away. So what do we make of Khamzat Chimaev? Is he complicit? Is he caught in something bigger than himself? Or is he exactly where he wants to be? Untouchable, unchallenged, and unchecked? No matter the answer, the implications are serious. Because when you let politics into sport, it doesn't leave quietly. It changes the rules. It rewrites the narrative. And in the end, it turns fighters into messengers, whether they realize it or not.